Hello, everybody. Let me get set up here and make sure you can hear me, you can see me. Okay, just double checking to make sure we are on. All right, good to see. I see some familiar faces. This is why I'm doing this as a meeting and not as a webinar because, hey, Emily, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Gina, what is going on? We need to catch up. I love it. So happy to see your beautiful face. No worries. You just said you're hopping on. Okay. That's all right. No worries. We're going to have a fun day today. I'm so glad you're here. Just make sure everybody can everybody hear me okay? All right. Good. I've been having trouble with the Zooms. So anyway, welcome. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. It's such an honor. Happy April. I bet you guys are in the throes of testing, stress of testing, the end of the year. Staying with my niece and her cat is deciding to make noise right now. It's all good. So, all right, I'm really excited to do this. So I just want to tell you guys a little bit of how about this balance mastery came to be. So I have been studying my own work-life balance, and not just that, just balance all around in terms of how I feel when I'm feeling balanced. So I've been studying myself, but I did a poll in the Facebook group for the Empowered Principal, and I asked them, like, what are the most important aspects of school leadership that you want support in, you need nurturing, you want guidance, feels like a struggle for you, and balance by far was one of the topics that came up. So in working with my one-on-one clients, working with EPC, I developed this and I wanted to offer it initially as a master class to all of my clients, all of my audience. And it's going to end up becoming a program within the Empowered Principal Collaborative. But you guys get the first run of it. So I'm going to be sharing that with you today. So if you're brand new to this program, you might be watching this on the replay. A lot of people registered knowing that they had things going on at school or home. So if you're watching this and it's a replay, first of all, I want to say welcome into the world of the Empowered Principal. Hey, Gina. And for those of you who don't know me, if you're brand new into my world, I'm just going to do a 5-second introduction. My name is Angela Kelly. I am a former teacher, instructional coach, principal, district leader, turned life and leadership coach for school leaders. So I'm a certified life coach and a leadership coach. I coach school leaders, helping you navigate the mental, emotional, physical demands of this job. But really my goal is for you to have the best experience possible as a school leader so that you bring that energy into your school and you can help your teachers, your staff, your families, your community have the best experience possible while they're at your school. So that's really what I do, is I just help people feel better so that they can bring that energy into helping others be empowered and inspired to do the work that they're called to do in the world. Okay. So today's topic is going to be on balance. And I'm going to talk about balance in a way that's a little bit different, maybe than you've thought about balance before. Most people, when they call me and want to talk about balance, they're talking about one of two kinds of balance. They want to get their priorities, they want to get their time balanced. They want to figure out how to fit in all of the demands. They want to fit in their schedule. They want to fit in their time. They want to make sure they feel they're prioritizing their time. The other kind of balance most people talk about is the work-life balance. Like they're feeling unbalanced. They feel like they're either working too much and not getting to home things, or they're taking care of home things and work things, but they're not doing anything that's filling their bucket, kind of a thing. So as we're here together today, I want you to consider like the balance that you're seeking. What areas of your life feel balanced? What aspects don't feel balanced? We're going to talk about defining that a little bit more for you. But if you feel like you want to have work-life balance, where you want to be energetic by the time you get home so you can still have a life outside of work, we're going to cover that here. If you want to feel like you're equally as productive. So some people feel like they're giving everything to work and they don't have anything left to give at home, or vice versa. There's so much going on at home that they feel like they're just kind of like scraping by at work. We're going to cover that, right? If you want to enjoy Monday through Friday as much as you do, like Saturday and Sunday, like I know we have the Sunday scaries, but what I see a lot of school leaders doing is holding their breath from Sunday night through Friday. And then like they're so exhausted on the weekend, they're just depleted, only to do it all over again, rinse and repeat, holding their breath for weekends, for breaks, for summer vacation. That doesn't feel to me like the most empowered way to live as a school leader. I know I tried that approach. It was not fun. So my goal here is to like breathe life back into the day-to-day activities of your calendar and your schedule. Okay. And then if you want to feel that you actually have some power and agency over your life, when work feels like it's happening to you and home feels like it's happening to you and you don't feel a sense of agency or control over the life and you want to be able to feel that power and that control over your schedule, that is also all of the things I'm going to talk about today, you can apply directly to those kinds of feeling unbalanced, okay? And here's why this feels a little bit different, right? This feels different because we're going to define balance in multiple ways. There are different kinds of balance. We're going to dismiss the belief that you are busy. One of the things that I try to eradicate from my clients' vocabulary is busy. When people are like, I'm just so busy, or things are just so busy. They're so hectic. There's so much going on. It's a lot. We talk about our jobs in this way, like there's just so much going on. And when we do that, what we're doing is we're reinforcing that we are too busy. We're too busy to take care of ourselves. We're too busy to have energy after work. We're too busy to slow down and balance our calendar. Things are just too hectic for us to make decisions with clarity and swiftly. We procrastinate them, or we put them off, or we just don't have time, or we hastily make decisions without slowing ourselves down. We don't give ourselves that time and space to plan, to really think, to kind of reflect, to be intentional and proactive with our time. That can happen as well. We also want to reject the conditioning that we have been offered, like how we've been trained to think about work, that overworking is the only option. So when we jump into school leadership, or just any educator at all, whether you're a teacher, an aspiring leader, a leader, district site, at any seat on the bus, it feels like there's so much to do and never enough time. And we believe that the only option is to overwork, overschedule, and overexert. So when we do that, we get into kind of we feel trapped. We get into the overwhelm cycle where we're chronically trying to catch up. But we get in the cycle of we overschedule, we overexert, we overwork, and then we're exhausted and depleted, and we don't like that, but we can't figure out how to get out of it. So we might underwork for a little while, or we might just like totally buffer and shut down for a few minutes, only to jump back in because we're in the belief that we can only overwork to solve the problem. So we're going to recalibrate that, okay? We're also going to recalibrate what success looks like, what it feels like. We're going to not make it mean so much about other people's definition of success and what other people think we should do in terms of productivity. And we're going to redefine it for ourselves, okay? And then I really want you to think about the value of, there's three things that we do with our human life. We work, we play, or we rest. I'm going to let the cat out of this room right now, just a second. I apologize. Or she's going to cry for the rest of the hour. Okay. There's three things that we do. We're either resting, relaxing, we're sleeping, we're lounging, we're just like recuperating, recovery, or we're working, whether that's working from home, working at home, working with our kids, productive, learning, growing, contributing at work, or we're playing, we're having fun. We're engaged in flow, in hobby, in delight. We're doing things for the pure pleasure of it. Those are the three kinds of ways we spend our time. And what I have found to be true, at least for the people I work with, and even in myself, as I study myself, I notice that those three things don't tend to be balanced. And I don't mean 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours. We're not sleeping 8 hours, playing 8 hours, working 8 hours. That's not what I mean by balance. I mean, do we feel good about the amount of time and energy that's going into work versus play versus rest? And some weeks are unbalanced. Sometimes we are sleeping 6 hours and we are working 12 hours and we're not really playing much at all. Other times we are on break and we're playing all week and we're not doing much work. So thinking about how we're spending those hours in the day and how we look at our lives in terms of rest, play, and work and giving them equal value. I just got off the call with a client today. She's on spring break this week and she's like, yesterday was my first day off and I had all these things I wanted to get done, but I found myself just like being unproductive. And then she was feeling bad for not following her calendar. But I said to her, like, the other option is to embrace that you did nothing, because that was the most disciplined thing your body needed. It was the most productive thing you could have done. And if it felt like it was happening against your will, that was only happening because there was a part of you that wasn't listening to the need. So the body will take over eventually, right? It's like if you just need to sleep, but you don't sleep, eventually the body's going to win out. You're going to fall asleep. Hopefully you're in a safe space when that happens, right? So we have to listen to our body. And the reason we have to listen to our body is because it knows what you need at all times. It knows when it's time to work. It knows when it's time to rest, and it knows when it needs play. And if you find yourself playing when you said you weren't going to play, it's only because there's such a deprivation of play that the body's just taking over. Okay. I also want to talk about the meter of success that we use. I don't use goals, accomplishment, achievement. I no longer use those as my meter of success. It's not to say you don't use them as benchmarks. It's how you feel. The measure of success is how you're feeling. If you are hyper productive and you're getting everything checked off the box and you're getting all that dopamine hit from being super productive, but it feels terrible the entire time you're doing it because you're pushing yourself so hard, that's not success. I mean, it's not in my book. It might feel like success to somebody externally. They might say, wow, you're so successful. You're so productive. And then we get accolades from that. And now we feel guilty if we're not. We got to keep up this facade of just always being so busy. But the truth is that that isn't success. If it doesn't feel good, then it's not successful. So you want to be able to be productive in the way that feels good. You want to be able to play that actually where you feel like you have permission to play. You don't have to earn it. You play because it feels good. And that's what your body needs, or that's what your mind or your heart needs. Okay. So let's start with defining balance. And I want you to think about something brought you to this call, something like caught your attention. And you're like, ooh, balance. That looks interesting. I want to learn more about that. Or I'm thinking this. I want you to really sit with yourself now and just think about what it is that brought you to this call. What are the areas in your life where you feel balanced and it's working really well? And then other areas that maybe doesn't feel as balanced, right? Because balance, there's no one mathematical equation. I think we come to these calls and we want a mathematical solution. This plus this equals that. We want to be handed that. And the problem with that is that balance is defined differently for every person on the planet. It just holds different meanings. It holds different meanings at different times of our life. When we're parenting infants, looks very different than when we're parenting teens, looks very different when we're parenting adult children, right? There's no one equation that you can just, cut, paste, and apply. So I want you to think about, as you're listening to this, what's the balance you're seeking at this point in your life? You don't have to solve for all the balance, right? If your kids are high school age right now, you're just going to think about that. Or if you are, wherever you are professionally, we're just going to look at that. You don't have to solve for all of it. You just need to solve for why you're here today and think about that. And I don't want balance to look like it's an equation on your calendar, that we think that we need this X amount of time plus this X amount of time plus this X amount of time to equal balance. That doesn't hold up. And how do we know that? Because there's days where you could work an hour a day and feel like you're over it. There's other days where you're going strong 8, 10 hours and you feel great, right? So balance is a feeling. When you feel balanced, you feel like you're able to fulfill all of the areas of your life. And in order to feel balance, you have to have those thoughts. There's got to be thoughts in there in your brain that are telling you that this is a balanced experience. Like, I'm enjoying this experience. I'm feeling balance in my life. Okay. One of the things that I recently came up with is I realized that it's not, as I mentioned earlier, right? It's not just about time balance. It's not how much time at work or how much productivity or how much we're getting done with the kids or how much we're doing at home versus work. This is really about an internal balance. There's physical balance, like the balance between movement and rest and relaxation, like physical balance, like, are we fed? Have we used the restroom, right? When's the last time we drank some water? Is our nervous system dysregulated? Do we need to get up and move our body? Do we need to take a walk? Do we need sleep? Is there a physical balance going on right here? And then we move past the physical balance and we get into like kind of an emotional balance. Like I'm feeling a little off balance emotionally. Like something just triggered me, something really, hard happened at work today, maybe with a student or a teacher, and you're wondering what's coming up for you, and there's an emotional imbalance happening, an emotional dysregulation that's happening. And then what needs to happen to create emotional balance in your life? If you're physically taken care of, you've been fed, you've got water, you've moved around, you are feeling like grounded physically, the next thing to check in is on that emotional balance. Am I emotionally? Do I need to cry it out? Do I need to take the afternoon off? Do I need to talk to somebody? Do I need to get into my coaching group and get some emotional support? Do I need a therapist? Do I need to just be with my partner or a girlfriend? What is it that I need that I believe will regulate me emotionally, bringing back the balance emotionally? Then we also have mental balance, right? Where our thoughts are flowing, where we're like focused, where we're leaning. So sometimes our thoughts are going in this really amazing direction, and we're feeling inspired by our thoughts. We're thinking about the future. We're having good feelings, thoughts about ourselves. We're thinking, this is amazing. Like I'm killing it. My students are doing great. I'm loving my grade level team. Other times we feel mentally unbalanced. We feel challenged. We have the dialogue. We all have this dialogue. Like, you really should have done this. There's this deprecation that goes on, or this self-judgment, it tends to be very internal, and it tends to be like kind of negative. And we project that negativity. We think other people are thinking it on top of us thinking about that, about ourselves. And then we're worried, like, is it true that they're thinking that? And now we're caught up in this mental game. Whatever I'm thinking about myself, it's 10 times worse if somebody else is thinking it too. And we get caught in a loop mentally. And then we have to if we're in this mental loop, what do we need, right? I also think there's a form of energetic balance. Like, when you're in momentum, you have a lot of energy, and you're like, you've caught the wave, right? I think of it as a wave. You're a surfer, and you caught the wave, and you're just in momentum. You're in flow. Like time kind of melts away, like everything melts away, and you're just in the zone. And then the wave crashes. You've like something kind of jolts you out of momentum. And then all of a sudden, like, those days you wake up and you're like, why do I feel so unmotivated? I feel so lethargic. I have no energy. And then we think something's gone wrong when we don't have energy. We think we should always be riding the wave, always be in momentum. And then we get into a mental loop about the energetic balance, which gets us in an emotional loop about the energetic balance, which then can impact our physical, right? Do you see it? It just like the goal is to create awareness around this. It's like you might be really on fire for one season of your school year, and then you might have a winter season, right? Where you're a little lower energy, a little lower like desire to kill it, to just go for it. So there's this balance, right? When you think about those different forms of balance, what we start to see is that they're interconnected. They do impact one another. And the only goal that we have to create balance is to start with tuning in to create awareness. So I always see this consistent cycle. It starts with dissonance. Like when we're on the wave, we're just going for it, right? We're not even really tuned in, paying attention because we're in flow. What creates awareness is dissonance. It's when we hit an obstacle, or when we feel like we're blocked, or we feel like something like took us down to the knees, or we have been struggling for a while. And there's this internal conflict, this internal struggle or stress of some kind. That struggle is a part of the balance. It is the art of imbalance. It's the moment of imbalance in the life, wherever it shows up, however it shows up, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically. That is just, it's the invitation. It's like, I'm on that part of the cycle of balance where I'm jolted by the unbalance. I'm not feeling in alignment with how I want to feel. Usually it's like kind of lethargic or unmotivated, or you're feeling overwhelmed or exhausted or stressed. It depends on how the imbalance is showing up. That's an invitation to like reflect and create awareness. I call it reflect and redirect. where you're like, oh, I'm thinking about all the things that aren't working, what's not going well. My mind's like in kind of poo-poo mode where everything's like, this isn't working, that's not working. It's just like negative, negative, negative. That is only happening as an invitation to create awareness, to get back into alignment. So here's how you know when you don't feel good, you're out of alignment. And all you have to do is like, what are my values? What do I want? Zoop, it takes you right back into alignment. You're like, oh, I have only been sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night for the last 2 weeks. What I really need is a good night's sleep. I need to like put this down. I need to skip the gym. I need to go home and sleep. Like literally put my jammies on at 7 and have a cup of tea and get a 10-hour sleep. That's what I need. But what happens? What happens when we're like, you know what? What I need right now is sleep. Taskmaster comes in. Nope, we got to go to the gym because it's on the calendar and we promised ourselves we would. If we got to go pick up the kids, we got to bake those PTA cookies because we promised ourselves. And I can't sleep. It just like that comes back into play, perpetuating the imbalance. What I love about this approach is that there is no right way to get you back into balance. There's only your way. So this program, this balance program that I'm creating, it's all about you creating your balance, your way, because only you can know which way you're out of balance. There's no wrong way to get back into balance, but there's also no right way to get into balance. They're just your way. And what we think we need is for some, like, I'm not an expert, I'm not a guru. I'm simply like observing my own inner dialogue, and I'm noticing what works and what doesn't for me. And then I offer that so that other people can have those conversations with themselves. And I also know it's so much easier to have that conversation with a third party, somebody who's not in your internal world. It's hard to coach yourself out of imbalance. So it's helpful to have meetings like this, classes like this, groups like this to pull us out of our own spiral. Okay. So for me, this is how I've identified mastery of balance. It's that you understand that you truly do have complete control over how you spend your time. You have so much more control over regulating yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically than you think. It's understanding that we actually have more control. And what happens is when we start to see the truth of that, it feels very scary because it feels like it's almost like we have so much empowerment that we don't know what to do with ourselves, right? The other piece of this is that once you understand that, that's the awareness piece. Like, oh, I actually do get to say when I sleep and when I don't, and when I eat and when I don't, and when I use the bathroom, and regulate myself physically. I can regulate myself emotionally with these tools. I can check in with myself or with a coach or a therapist or a friend, with my partner on mental balance. I can energetically check in with myself on the amount of energy that I want to allocate for work versus home versus myself versus the kids, right? You get to start prioritizing what that looks like based on your values. That's why this is so personalized. This work is so personalized because your values, what you prioritize, what you value, it's individualized. It's individualized to you. It's customized to you. It has to come from values. If somebody else is telling you, oh, well, in order for you to lose 10 pounds, you need to do these 5 things. Well, that works for them. And that's amazing that works for them. And they can share it with others, but it doesn't always mean it's going to work for you. So we have to co-create balance by having conversations around what's working, what's not working, and what you want. But what you want, the desire, that's an internal value that's coming to the surface. Okay. So balance is going to look different for you as it does for your partner, your kids, your colleagues, your teachers, if you're a teacher, your grade level, department, whatever, anybody else. And we have to be okay with that. You working 10 hours only because your next door neighbor stays until 6 o'clock every night does not make a balanced life for you. That might be what balance looks like for her. Maybe she doesn't have children at home, or maybe she just started teaching, but you're a veteran teacher and she requires that and is really into that zone in her life right now. Maybe that's flow for her and that feels like balance. But for you, you've got 3 kids, you've been doing this for 10 years, and you have a system knocked out of the park so that you can be out on your way at 4 o'clock to pick up your kids and go be a mom. That looks like balance for you. For For somebody else, it looks different. Okay. So we can't compare and despair over balance because it's going to look different for individuals, but it's also going to look different for you, different times of the year. And no matter what seat you are on the bus, education looks different. When you think about August, the amount of energy and time and attention that you spend prepping and getting your classroom ready for your kids, that's like pushing a boulder up a mountain. You are like going all out. You're not sitting in yoga class perfectly balanced. You're not kumbayaing. You are working, right? It's hard. It's hard. But you expect it. When you anticipate it, you expect it and you plan for it. And you're like, okay, I know I'm going to be working 12-hour days here for the next 2 weeks as I'm starting school up. I'm going to give myself grace. I'm not going to the gym. I'm going straight home, and comfies are going on, feet are going up, and computers off, because I'm going to work 12 hours really hard, but the balance I'm going to create for myself is from 6 to 9. I'm totally just relaxing and I'm in bed at 9. That's going to be how I create balance within the imbalance of the beginning of the year. It happened. I see it happen seasonally. There is a wave in the fall, a wave in winter, a wave in the spring, and then a wave in the summer, where we have this influx of work, and then we have kind of this downtime. It happens seasonally every quarter. We're in it right now, actually, because like we were ramping up for testing, and now that as people are in the actual zone of testing, they're back into flow a little bit, and now the fun start. Like after testing, everybody starts to relax. People get to play, they get to do like fun, authentic things with kids and celebrate the end of the year. But the beginning of April, like end of March, early April, it's that, right? And then you have winter dip where winter blues kick in and everybody's like, what is happening to me? I just like want to crawl in my bed and hibernate. Like, I don't even want to be here right now, right? And the weather's kind of crappy and it's changing and all of that. So it's going to look different week to week, day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, depending on where you're at in your career journey, in your life journey. So what we want to do, and the reason I bring this up and emphasize it, is judging it doesn't help. It just doesn't help at all. So allowing the imbalance as part of balance, knowing it's there, knowing imbalance happens, and just embracing that part of it actually helps create balance. Like when we embrace the imbalance, that is part of the balance. Okay. So problem that I see happening, this is the grind that I tend to see, is how we get sucked into an overwhelm cycle. Everything feels like a priority. Why? Because we're letting people tell us what the priorities are. Teachers are coming in. You got a minute? Students are coming into class, teachers like, can I get that assignment from you again? Or can I do extra credit? Or, there's all these demands. But it's other people's priorities and values and demands coming onto your plate. And then you start to get confused and doubt like how to prioritize it all, because you're taking your job and adding students' job, parents' job, teachers' job, district's job, all onto your plate. Okay. The other thing I see is that, and school districts are infamous for this, is they create a bunch of really big deadlines all in a short amount of time. And they're like, well, it's just how it goes. It's that time of year, kind of suck it up, right? And you're like, ooh, okay. So you want me to like roll out the vision for the year, create a plan, have a site plan, create a safety plan, do safety drills once a week or once a month. Here in California, we do our earthquake big thing in October. Like they demand a lot of deadlines in a very short period of time. And I just laugh and I'm like, everyone can get that done, but only to a certain quality, only to a certain standard. Because at this point, you're just doing to do. You're checking off the boxes. So the way that I help school leaders is I help them reconcile with B- work. So if you have to meet a bunch of deadlines that are imposed upon you, there's 2 ways to do it. Overwork, do the A+ work and exhaust yourself, and like deliberately be in imbalance for an extended period of time, or allow yourself to have some balance, limit this time and the scope you're going to give to allocate, like the energy and the depth in which you're going to do that task. You might take that down a notch and you turn it in to get it done, so that you don't kill yourself creating A+ plans that, when at the end of the day, maybe 10% of them get implemented. So we're killing ourselves because we want to be the A+ student 100% of the time, doing things that other people demanded from us, but that don't actually generate value in our school leadership experience. So that's one of the problems. When we have demands coming in from all angles. I mentioned this a little bit before. There's the demand piece. Everyone's like, do you got a minute? They basically want your time, attention, your energy. When we don't know how to navigate that, then we start to just give into those demands. We're like, yeah, sure. Come on in. Open door policy. Yeah, sure. I'll answer these emails at 6:00 tonight. Oh, sure. You can come. I'll do a 7:00 meeting with you. Right. So Emily said, what gets evaluated when you're a school leader? If you're new and you do B- work, will you be demoted? That's a great question, Emily. Here's my answer to this. Especially in your first year, you just don't know what you don't know. So you're going to tend to lean to the side of overworking to try and get the A work turned in. But the easier thing to do is ask, like, what components of this plan do I need to focus on? If I were to prioritize my focus, what are the top 3 things because the site plan can be like miles long. I think ours was like 50 pages. It's ridiculous, right? It was a template we all had to fill out. It was just, so I said, okay, what aspect am I going to really do the work on this? And then what parts am I going to like kind of cut and paste, kind of like generalize, kind of just do enough of the work to keep myself moving? I just would ask other principals. I would ask like the person I was turning it into, like, if as a new principal, can you just point me in the right direction? What about this document is the most important thing for you? Is the most important thing I should be focusing on? They'll tell you, because they know that a lot of it for them is just compliance and they have to dish it down to you. So one, ask, make it easier on yourself, or be willing to do extensive amount of overworking the first year. I like to expedite your well-being and say, ask. And the third option is just turn it in and see what happens. Because you can leverage being new, and you can be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. I'm happy to go back and reflect on that. That's the other piece, right? If you're nervous to ask, or it doesn't feel safe to ask, that's understandable. Turn it in. It's like kids are doing it, right? They're doing so much homework. They just turn it in as is. If you've got something to say as a teacher, you're going to say it. And sometimes they turn it in. You're like, it's done, right? Like it's not the top priority of life. We're going to let that slide. We're going to let it be a B. Yep. Yes, you help them prioritize, Gina's saying. That's so good. Yeah. So the other problem that I see most often, like I'm doing my top 4 here, is like emergencies, interruptions, and not expecting them. It's not eradicating them. It's actually thinking that they shouldn't be happening. We're in the business of people. We're working with the humans all day long. There will be interruptions and emergencies. Now, do we want to plan ahead and anticipate as much as we can to prevent emergencies and interruptions? Yes. And we also want to add them on our calendar. This is the biggest secret I teach people. I'm like, how many minutes or hours in the day do you spend time interruptions? And people will say anywhere from like, I don't know, 10 minutes a day to an hour a day. Okay. If you're getting interrupted an hour a day, put an hour on your calendar that says interruptions, and then use that as flex time, knowing you cannot assign that hour to something else and then be disappointed that you didn't get that thing done because you got interrupted for an hour. If you're getting interrupted for an hour a day, number one, I'm going to help you with time management and actually the conversations and setting people up to not interrupt you, because they need to be trained how not to interrupt you. That's a separate conversation. But if right now you're getting interrupted an hour a day, plan on it. Expect it. Don't be defeated because you had 2-hour block to get your site plan done, but you got interrupted for an hour. So you only got an hour on your site plan. And now you feel like you have to work late and miss your kids this or that, or pick them up late, or have your spouse pick them up, or you have to work after they go to bed or something, right? Like you have to make up the hour, versus I can only give an hour to this today because this is the current status. Like I have an open door policy. I didn't realize that was not the best approach, but if it's the reality, I'm going to plan for it. I'm just going to give an hour. And guess what? If you don't get interrupted for an hour, you have the gift of extra time and work on your site plan. Okay. So, but there is a surface. I call these below the surface problems. They're like the problem behind the problem. They are always thoughts. It's a mindset. Okay. 3 of them that come up in balance is: 1, you don't believe you have the power or agency over your energy, time, focus, attention, all of your personal assets, right? Your mental power, your emotional well-being, your physical rest. Like, you don't believe you have the power to control that is what's happening underneath. Number two, we have been sold on the belief that work must be the priority. Work comes before play. We teach this to kids in classrooms. First we work, then we play. You have to get your work done before you can go to recess. You got to do this before you get the treat or the prize or the free time. So we teach that work is always the priority. That's not always true. How do we know? If you get a call that your kid's in ER, work is not the priority. Work's not even on the menu. ER is on the menu. My child is on the menu. That's it. They have one priority in that moment. So we want to start to kind of unravel this mindset that work comes first all of the time. Particularly if you have that you're caring for other people outside of your school day, but it matters just as much if you are a single person, party of one, and you're a school leader, your well-being and what you want to do with your friends and your family and your time alone and your well-being, that's equally as important as work. We have to redefine that. And then number three, here's where we really get down to it. It's uncomfortable to be a school leader who says, I actually don't have a minute right now. I'm actually working on a project that needs my entire focus. I have a deadline to meet. Can we schedule for tomorrow? It's uncomfortable to set standards, to train our people when and how to communicate with us, to train ourselves that work can wait until tomorrow. It's very uncomfortable to let something wait until tomorrow when we're like, if I just stayed an extra 30 minutes, I could get this done. It's going to feel so good. There's a time and a place for that. But if it's happening on the regular, it's a problem. If you want to get to the gym 3 times a week or go to a yoga class or meet a girlfriend for coffee after work, but you're constantly having to cancel on yourself, what you're training yourself is that work is the boss. It's in the driver's seat. It controls you. The to-do list, that little tiny bit of dopamine hit you get when you check the box feels good for about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. By the time you're driving home and you've done that task, it feels good. And then you're already on to the next thing. It's temporary. It's like false pleasure, and we chase it. We chase it like it's the most important thing on the planet because it feels so good in that moment. It's like intense pleasure for about 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And then we look at the other, we go back to what else didn't get done. Okay. So what do? You're now we're going to fast forward. We're trapped in the overwhelm cycle. And we do this overwhelm, underwhelm. We go to all or none thinking. We go in overwhelm, overwork, overexert, overschedule. We get so exhausted. Eventually the body kicks in and says, boop. We get sick. We zone out. Somehow we just were on Instagram for 30 minutes. We played Candy Crush on our phone in our office with the door closed because we're hiding the fact that we just need a mental break, right? For the love of goodness, right? The body, it feels like sabotage, but it's not. It's imbalance trying to communicate to you. Hey, I need your attention here. I need a mental break. I need a physical movement. I need a nap. I need a snack. I need some water. I need to get out and be with people. I've been locked in my office for 2 hours. Or I need to lock myself in my office for 2 hours. It's trying to communicate to us. And we get frustrated with ourselves when it kicks in. We push ourselves to the all or none limits where we're not doing anything. And now there's so much piled up at work, or we're doing so much at work that now laundry's piled up at home, or we haven't taken the kids to the dentist and we feel like we're bouncing back and forth. That's typically how we solve for balance. We're over here being imbalanced and then we're over here being imbalanced. And I want to invite us to consider that as much as we think that works, how does it feel? At the end of the day, the only way we check in with ourselves is how does it feel? If you feel terrible, if you feel out of sorts, if you feel like you cannot concentrate, if you feel like, if you have those, all of that's caving in feeling, when things are just all caving in on you, or you almost feel apathetic, it's almost to the point of defeat, discouragement, defeat, kind of in that realm, that approach isn't working. But we don't, rather than admit that it doesn't work, we try it again, trying the same thing, expecting different results, right? Chugging away. But we're only doing that because we don't know another approach, because we've been taught that this is the approach. Work until you fall, get the little bit of sleep that you need, and then get back at it. and rinse and repeat for about 40 years. I'd like to break that cycle for all of us, particularly women who are doing 2 full-time jobs, professionally and personally. Okay. We intellectually know that this doesn't work, but we get caught in the loop. And ultimately, we fulfill the beliefs that are driving this in the first place. We believe, you're right, I don't have agency over my own life. I have to be a principal, a teacher, a district leader, and then I have to go home and be a mom, and then I need to be a spouse, and then I need to be a sister, and then I need to be a friend. And we just, we pour all the energy down to zero, and we jump into bed to try and refuel ourselves. And it ends up feeling like we have no control. We're just, life's happening to us. And we start to lose sight of what joy is, of what purpose is, of what, just today I was coaching somebody and he said, I feel like he's a first-year principal, and he said, I feel like this job has zapped me of lightness. He said, I feel so heavy now. I feel so serious. Like everything is so important. And I said, your job as a leader is no more important. It's no more serious than teaching was. Did you find joy in teaching? Yes. It's no more serious. You think it is because you're the leader, and it's because you have different thoughts about being a principal than you did being a teacher, than you did being an assistant, than you did being a teenager working at the grocery store bagging groceries. Like, you're having fun when you're 15 working because you're with your friends, and who cares if the burger burns, or who cares if the eggs break, you go get more. Like, it's not life or death. But then we get into school leadership, or we get into teaching where we're working with kids, and all of a sudden we're believing that this is life or death, when we forget that we are not the master puppeteer. We do not have control over other people's careers and other people's student experiences and other people's parental experiences and other people's professional. We are not navigating your teacher's professional career or your paras or your office staffs. You're not in control of your students' lives or your parents' lives. We think that we are because we're the leader, because we own so much responsibility. But at the end of the day, we forget to separate out our experience from theirs. What's in our control versus what's not. We disempower people when we believe that we know what's best, and we need to kind of come into their lane and teach them and tell them how to live life and how to do their job and how to feel and how to make it better and how to fix things. And we get very convoluted. We take all the steer cycles and we put them into a ball. But balance is it's very easy to have balance when you're staying in your lane, when you're doing it, and when you're remembering that when you decide to let a teacher go, it's the most loving thing you can do. When you decide that a student needs to be suspended or can't go on a field trip because of a behavior, and that's the consequence, you're not ruining their life. They created that result from themselves. You are simply co-creating this particular experience with this student, but you're doing it out of love so that they can empower themselves. They can choose to reflect on their decisions and their actions, and you plant the seed for them to be empowered by letting them own the consequences of that, by you not taking ownership. I had a principal who was so distraught because the consequence in the policy book was the kids couldn't go on their end of year trip, but these kids had done something warranting that consequence. And she was feeling heavy about it, she was ruining their student experience. But she failed to remember that she didn't go out and do the things that those kids did, that you can be sad for them and hold space for your own emotions, but that you are not you're not making decisions ruining somebody's life, whether you let them go, whether you have to discipline them, whether you have to have a conversation, whether an IEP doesn't go the way you thought, or retention conversations. There's a lot of conversation right now at this time of year. But what ends up ultimately, I think the saddest thing that I see happening is that principals go through their career not having the experience they want. They're doing it out of obligation, out of grind, out of grit, out of just being persistent, but they feel terrible doing it. It's not the experience they want to have. And one of two things happen. They live an unhappy life, or they quit. They just can't do it anymore. It's not worth it. So that's why I say the compass that needs to drive your professional decisions around balance has to be your emotional compass. It's what tells you balanced, unbalanced, target, off target, doing too much, doing too little, doing just right. So here's some ways that I help people regain balance if they're feeling out of balance. First of all, you have to be sold on the value of it, because you're never going to take balanced action if you don't believe that the time invested in that balancing action is of your highest regard. You have to believe that you need the nap and the rest, or you need to take a half a day off and go feel your feelings, or you need to take that walk and cool down because you're really ticked off, or you need to do that you need to regulate yourself in some way, shape, or form. You have to believe that the time away from productivity and working is equally as valuable, or you won't make that choice. You just won't. You have to be sold on the value of it. So you have to retrain your brain to be like, why is this the most important thing I can do right now? When you're so exhausted, this happened to me so many times as a school leader. When I was so exhausted, you would be trying to make a decision and you're literally like this, like, oh, I don't even know. You do one of two things. Like, you just can't make the decision. It feels so cloudy and so heavy, or you just make it to be done with it because it just feels like too much pressure. But either way, it's not a clean decision. It's not a clear decision, when really what you needed to do is like go home early, sleep on it, and put it on your calendar for the first thing. Bright, bushy-tailed, good night's sleep, great cup of coffee. Now I'm feeling like a boss, ready to make this decision. It happens like that. You got to sell yourself. You got to sell your brain. I call it selling your brain. It's basically like looking for the value in it, reminding yourself of the value. I sometimes have to write it out because I have a very good taskmaster in my brain that argues. It's like I'm in a court and it's like there's an argument about why it's valuable and why this other thing is more valuable. And it's very convincing most of the time. And if I'm not intentional, that wins. The taskmaster wins the conversation. And I end up doing what the taskmaster says instead of what my body is saying I need, the balance that I need. Okay. You have to define and identify what feels and looks like balance for you in order to know if you've achieved it or not. Again, no one can tell you that. Only you can tell you that. And then finally, we want to always use our emotional compass. Identify what generates those feelings of balance for you, knowing how you feel when you are in balance. So you can identify when you're not and when you are, and be very clear and get like, it'll hit you instantly. This is balance. This is not. And then I think the hardest part, but it's the easiest, the simplest, but the hardest. It's committing to the acts of balance in the moment that you need them. It's being willing to put the pencil down, close the computer, turn off the phone, and leave for the day. It's the commitment to the balance. But the commitment to the balance, it's the most loving and balanced thing you can do. I think I was telling you, I was coaching somebody today and she felt like it was undisciplined to take a day off on her break. And I was like, your body has been waiting for this break for so long. And Monday came and you did a to-do list. And the body was like, not happening. We're going to listen to Taylor Swift, the entire album front to back. That's what she ended up doing with her day. And then she was so embarrassed. She's like, my husband's going to come home and see that I didn't do anything. He doesn't care. It's your break. Basically, it's like telling your kids, like, we're going to take you out for ice cream after dinner. And then they're like, okay. And then you're like, but first you have to clean your room. Okay. You'll go clean the room. Now come in. But then you need to, pick up your toys. Oh, and then you got to do your homework. That's what we do to ourselves. It's freaking break. Go on break. So what happens is the body's like, here's what I'm going to get you on a break. I'm going to get sick. Or I'm going to self-sabotage by like scrolling on Instagram, or I'm going to like do something to get into control here. So you either can do it with intention, or you can let the body take over, which feels like unintentionally. Okay. So committing that to your schedule, really important. And just here's why it's the solution. If I can just sell you guys a little bit, balance is never going to occur. You're not going to feel balanced if you don't acknowledge what is balance for you. If you don't validate when you need what, and you don't give it time on your calendar. Time, I think of time as dollars. Like, you have a spending plan for your dollars. I'm going to allocate this many dollars to this, what I value here and what I value here and what I value here. And I'm going to save this much, and I'm going to give my kid this much, and I'm going to pay the mortgage and internet and all the things. Like minutes or dollars. We want to allocate them in advance. That's what a calendar is for. We leverage our calendar by creating balance with it. When we say we're leaving at 4:30 from work, we need to honor that. Or it's like spending more dollars, right? It's like, and some days you need to reallocate funds because there is an emergency that you got to deal with. You're going to just stay longer. But you want to start practicing the art of honoring with the balance that you know that you need and that you plan for, because it builds internal trust. It sets us, you create a set of standards for yourself. You honor your compass, your emotional compass, because your brain will never be sold. It'll never do the things unless it's sold. And you can't know what brings balance if you don't take time to define it and identify and go for that, right? So here's the truth. It is possible to create balance. It's actually responsible. It's the most responsible thing you can do because you're responding to your needs. And it's nobody else's job on the planet to respond to your needs except for you. Your kids don't know, your class doesn't know, your teachers don't know what you need, your spouse doesn't even know what you need. You know. Your body knows. You do have the time and people can wait. And it's uncomfortable and they'll be okay because they're responsible for their emotional wellness and regulation and you're responsible for yours. If we could give ownership and responsibility around our thoughts and our feelings back to the people who are having them, this job in education would be so much easier. And yes, the problem is we haven't been teaching this until now. We haven't been teaching emotional maturity, emotional regulation, like how we train children over, like in a developmentally appropriate way to talk about emotion, to express emotion, to process it, to feel it, to respond to it, to communicate it. We haven't been teaching that. We haven't been taught. It's nobody's fault. We just haven't done it until now. We're doing it now. So we're taking today and we're going to move forward. Okay. Because balance is what it means to take ownership of my self-care. It's possible to be an amazing school leader and it's an education, whatever you're doing. Because I know I've got people in here who aren't teaching or they're not, school leaders necessarily, but any seat on the bus, it's possible to be really good at what you do and stick to your plans for your future self. Because what we're doing here is we're creating an experience. We're playing the game of life as humans on the planet. We're creating the experience we want to have. And we do that through our emotions and our mind space, because emotions are the fuel that you put into the gas tank that drives all of your decisions and actions every single time. And why not put in fuel that feels good? And if you get bad gas, you wake up and like your tank has got some bad tank of gas, go take the day to get rid of that. Process that emotion, feel the feels, be in the moment. Our job is not to feel perfect every single day. Our job is to allow ourselves to feel the feelings we do have and to remind ourselves that we have the power to get back on track, and that emotion, it's just a guidance system. It's a GPS. When I'm not feeling great, I need to check in with myself in order to feel better again, to get back on track. When I'm feeling great, yes, please, more of that. That's the high octane fuel when we're in flow. But the balance is there are days when we don't feel good. We need to honor that and get back on track. And then there's days we feel amazing and we want to tap into that and create momentum. So the process that I teach, I'm going to just go over it really quickly because I know we're at the hour. Define what balance looks like for you. That's step one. What's it look and feel like for you? And how do you know how do you know when you're in balance? How you feel? What does balance feel like for you? When you're having the best day ever, what does that feel like in your body? Where does it reside in your body? What's the energy level you're feeling? What are their thoughts? What are the thoughts that you're having? All of that. Okay. Then the second step is, once you know what it is, you're going to sell your brain on the value, how balance makes life better, faster, easier for you. I'm always asking myself, how do I make life better? How good can life get? This creates the joy. How happy can I be? How much fun can I have? How delighted do I want to be with my life? How proud do I want to feel? How good can this get? How can I make this better, faster, and easier for myself, for others, for the world? And then I sell my brain on that approach because it feels good. Step 3 is schedule. You put it on the calendar. Work's going to get plenty of time. I want you to calendar your balance activities first. If you need physical balance, it goes on the calendar first. You're not going to want to do that because you're going to think that work comes first. Work's going to have plenty of time. Don't you worry about it. Put these in first. Use your calendar to leverage your balance. And then you honor those as appointments like you would any other appointments or any other meetings on your calendar. Your appointments are with yourself. It might be an appointment with your bed, or an appointment with your girlfriends, or an appointment at the gym, or an appointment at the hair salon, or an appointment with your doctor, or an appointment with your emotions. Those are just as important as any meeting on your calendar, any work meeting. You might need an appointment with your spouse, a date night. That might be the appointment that you're honoring. I think of them as appointments because they're equally valuable. And then the game of life, we're coaching ourselves on the non-balance. We're allowing it when it happens because it's going to. Let it flow and just say, I'm in it. I'm in imbalance right now. What is it that I do need to get back in balance? And then you check in with yourself. That's the process. And you just apply that over and over and over. Just looking through, making sure I'm covering all my things. I could go on with this topic for hours, but I just want to close with this, that we all have the capacity to create balance, and we have the capacity to handle the imbalance, the weeks of imbalance, or the months or the years. We have the strength to handle imbalance, to create perspective around the imbalance. And we use and leverage the imbalance to generate more balance in our lives. And the way I like to think about it, I like to fast forward to the end of my life and look backwards. Do I want to have been a school leader who was chronically stressed out, chronically anxious, chronically overworked? Nobody wants an overworked principal, by the way. Nobody wants to work for an overworked, crabby principal. So keep that in mind. Like, if you can't give yourself the luxury of like feeling good, keep in mind that people want to work for someone who feels good. They want somebody who's happy and lighthearted and having fun and loves their job and doesn't take everything so seriously and gets enough sleep and food and water and movement in their lives, right? They want that. They want to be around you. You want to be a magnetic leader, a charismatic leader, a fun leader, an empowered principal. That's what this is about. So that is just the beginning of balance, but it does give you plenty to think about, to consider, and to jumpstart with. For those of you who are interested in Empowered Principal Collaborative, which is my group coaching program, that program, it starts in September and it runs through May. For those of you who are watching this live or watching the replay, you're going to get $500 off your fee, the registration fee, when you sign up throughout month of April, because you're going to pre-register now. You're going to secure your seat because I limit the spots, and I'm going to give you $500 off for being proactive and for pre-registering early. And the other reason that it's so very important to pre-register, other than like before it sells out, is that I do bonus sessions at the end of July and into early August on planning out your year. We map out your year. We do the 3-month plan. We talk about selling your vision. We talk about creating your balance ahead of time, getting yourself on board for the year, getting others on board for the year. We cover all of that pre-planning stuff in bonus sessions that occur. So if you're already registered, you will be automatically invited into those bonus sessions. If you wait until August, you'll miss them. So get on board, sign up now. April bonus for like being decisive and jumping right in. I'll give you $500 off. The full price is $19.97, but you'll get in for $14.97. And you'll get access to the bonus sessions that are going to be coming in July and August. Okay. Now, if you just have questions, you want to know more about that, I'm going to be sending out a replay of this to everybody who registered. You're going to get access to the replay for 72 hours. You're going to get the discounted price of $14.97. You're going to get access to the bonus sessions, but also, where was I going? I just lost my train of thought. Let me just look at my notes here. Oh, I forgot. Sorry, I forgot. It happens. So all I wanted to say, yes, I'm going to send the link. I'm going to send the discounted rate, the link, the replay, this, you'll get the link to register, not a problem. But if you have questions, that's where I was landing. I knew I'd come back full circle. If you have questions, I'll also put a link in the email. You can schedule a 15-minute Q&A with me if you have individual questions about the Empowered Principal Collaborative. So if you feel so called to come into EPC, to come into the world of the Empowered Principal, I invite you. You're more than welcome. Bring a friend, have some fun, let it be light, enjoy this experience. Next week, I'm going to be talking specifically to aspiring school leaders who want to get hired. So it's called Hired. I'm going to teach you a mindset and approach to getting yourself hired in the ideal position for you. That is next week, same time, same station, 2 p.m. Pacific time on next Tuesday. The third session is going to be on inspiration, tapping into your inspiration, keeping yourself inspired as you exit in this year, reflect on this year, and then getting inspired over the summer for your upcoming year. And then the fourth one is my favorite. It's the impact. So how to create impact for yourself, for others, and for the greater good. So we're going to be working on those 4 topics. These are all brand new topics that I've been cultivating over the last few weeks based on everybody's feedback. So I hope this has been amazing and helpful. It's good to see your beautiful faces for those of you who came live. And I will talk to you all very soon. Take good care. Love you all. Bye.